back to my workshop. My name is Robert. In today's video I'm going to be making an extension for this handle. The extension will have a square projection on one end to match the square socket in this, and a square socket on the other to match the shaper. Hope you find this interesting. Let's get on with it. I'm all set up to cut a gear on my shaping attachment, but there's one thing that is a constant source of annoyance. This shaft pokes out well beyond this shaft here. Now this shaft is needed to transmit the drive through the mechanism to the dividing head up here. This shaft is needed to rewind the table back to the start every single cut. Now I have this handle that I made a while ago. The problem is that this handle on here is clearly going to foul on this shaft here, and doing 3/4 of a turn every time and then taking it off gets quite tiresome. Bear in mind that with this gear that I have in the chuck here, this is steel. I may be taking 25 time passes, and this needs about 9 passes to get to full depth. Multiplied by the number of teeth means that I'm looking at about 180 passes. That means the handle here is going to have to get wound back 180 times the number of rotations, and you can start to see where I'm coming from. So my plan of attack is this. If I make up an extension bar with a 1-inch deep square drive and make sure that it's between, I suppose I'm going to need about a total length of about 4 inches on the material. I'll cut a square drive on this end, and then I can use that as an extension for this handle. What I've used in the past, which is quite unsatisfactory, is a 15mm socket which fits on there quite nicely and will move it, but it's not right, and it's not very user friendly. So down in the chip tray of my lathe I've got some candidates. This material here, this should be a nice match for the diameter of this piece. It's a bit smaller. I could use this piece, which would be, actually that would be perfect. So maybe we'll use a piece of that. And then I have a piece of 3/4 rod here. So what I'm intending to do is to cut a couple of inches of this rod, mill half of it away, and then cut a square slot through it to be half of the 1/2-inch slot there. I'll then bore a hole in this so that I can take the piece here, chop it in half, put both halves against each other, drop it in the hole and silver solder it in, and that will make my square socket. So I've got the rod with its cleaned up end down this end in the T-slot, just resting in the T-slot, and I've got two clamps. There's the other one. I've got 2 clamps holding it down into the slot nice and tight so it can't go anywhere. I'm going to use this slab mill to mill it halfway. There's obviously going to be a radius at the end, so we're going to have to go more than 2 inches. I'm going to be working in imperial mainly because, despite the fact this is 20mm rod and I need to take half of it away, but trying to measure how much is left is easier in imperial for me. I'll measure the initial diameter with the micrometer here, and then at the same time I can put this micrometer over the top. I can measure the diameter of the rod as it is now. I'll know what half of this reading is, so then if I reduce this reading until it's half the diameter down, I know I'm exactly at halfway. Exact precision is not required here. Within a few thou will be fine, because as long as it's on the small side, not the large side, because I'm intending to silver solder this into a tube of steel when it's finished, so there will be some gap there, some capillary to fill in with silver solder. This is a view of the setup from the other side. I've got a bed stop set here so that this will automatically kick out the auto feed. There's 2 inches of flat surface there, that's enough. Three, 2, 4, 28 thou left. very hollow and it sounds like it could do some support, but it's difficult getting the support in there. Slightly modified setup. I've managed to squeak a little clamp in there. It's just grabbing hold of the edge. So we'll take 40 thou. It measures up at 235, final cut to depth. I'm going to go just a little bit beyond. So if I take about 17 thou more, last cut, then we're going to be moving the cutter side to side to widen the slot, making sure that the height doesn't change at all. So here it is finished. The depth is over 1/4 inch by about 2 thou, and the width is over 1/2 inch by about 2 thou as well. So there'll be a little tiny bit of slop room to make sure that it goes on and off nice and easily. And this is what we end up with. After all that work, 2 little bits of channel that fit together and should be perfectly round, and a nice square hole in the middle. Here I'll squeeze together in a collet. I'm just going to face it off, put a small chamfer on the end. So this is what we've created, and they fit very nicely on there. Now for the main body of the adapter, I've got a piece of 1¼ inch in the chuck. It's done up nice and tight, no harm in checking. And I'm going to part this off, then spin it around this end's already got a reduced diameter, but that's fine because this is going to turn into a 1/2 inch square. Part this off, drill and bore to accept the little square bush. So that's the bore, chamfered, depth. He's sitting there quite nicely. So all I've got to do now is get it hot and get them silver soldered in. I think we'll call that good. Well, it certainly melted a lot of rod in there. Got rid of about 8 inches of rod into it. So post silver soldering, this is the result. You can see the silver solder has flowed all the way down to the bottom. It's made quite a pool of it down the bottom there. So now I've got the delights of trying to clean up the inside faces of the square, but it looks like it's come out quite nicely. And on one of the joins just here, it appears that there's some silver braze that's actually penetrated between the two halves as well. So I don't think that's ever coming out of there again. I'm going to make a decorative feature of the V-groove and just V that silver braze V out. There are two holes here that I purpose drilled to mount the vise. These slots were put in by me. These were original ones, but I put these in because these are in the right position to put the rear jaw at about the right position for the vertical head in its normal configuration. So now I need to put two studs in here. Now when horizontally milling, the mill's going to force the workpiece against the fixed jaw, so it's going to have maximum support. So now comes the fun. Firstly, let's take that out of there. I'd use the rear face of the column, but if I do that, I'm going to have to change the knee height, and at the moment I don't want to move the knee height until we finish the job. So that looks pretty good to me. Could run a dial indicator up and down it, but I think that'll do. So this will be the final cut. So after a bit of dressing with the file, it's snug, and it varies from various positions, so that's not square or that's not square, or probably both. But it goes together very nicely now. There we are. So here's the shaper resplendent with its new extension bush for the handle, ready to start nibbling away at this gear. So there we are, one completed extension. It works very well and made life much easier when cutting the gear, which is what it was intended for in the first place. In the next video, I'll get round to actually making the gear that the last two videos have been sub-projects for. So thanks very much for watching.